Alright, let's go. Number 15, the interdimensional hypothesis. For decades, the search for alien intelligence has operated on a single assumption. If other civilizations exist, they occupy the same physical universe we do. They live on planets orbiting stars. They emit radio waves. They build structures we could detect if we looked hard enough. The entire framework of SETI rests on this. Same universe, same physics, same observable space. Find the signals, and you find them. That assumption may be completely wrong. The interdimensional hypothesis proposes that advanced civilizations do not exist in our dimension at all. Physics already confirms that dimensions beyond the three we perceive are mathematically necessary. String theory requires 10 or 11 dimensions to remain internally consistent. M-theory requires 11. These extra dimensions are not science fiction. They are demanded by the most rigorous mathematical frameworks we have. We simply cannot access them with any instrument we currently possess. A civilization that discovered dimensional engineering millions of years before us would have no reason to remain in three-dimensional space. The energy efficiency, the computational possibilities, the freedom from entropy constraints, all of it would make the transition an obvious choice. They would not leave because they were running from something. They would leave because staying would be the equivalent of choosing to live inside a cardboard box when an entire planet is available outside. What makes this theory unsettling is not the departure. It is the implication about what remains. Everything we observe, every galaxy, every signal, every structure in the three-dimensional universe is the abandoned layer. The basement of a building whose upper floors contain everything that matters. We are searching for intelligence in the one place sophisticated enough intelligence would never stay. The universe feels empty because for anything advanced enough to leave, it is. Number 14, the sustainability solution. Physics and biology agree on one thing. Any system that consumes resources faster than those resources regenerate will eventually collapse. This is true for ecosystems. It is true for economies. It appears to be true for civilizations. The sustainability solution proposes that this is not a problem unique to humanity. It is the universal fate of every technological species in the galaxy, and it explains the silence with brutal simplicity. Every civilization that develops industry develops it the same way. Exponential resource consumption, exponential waste production, exponential population growth driving exponential demand. The mathematics of exponential growth on a finite planet are always the same regardless of the biology of the species doing the consuming. The curve rises. The resources deplete. The curve collapses. The timeline varies. The outcome does not. What makes this theory particularly terrifying is the narrowness of the window. A civilization capable of interstellar communication requires centuries of industrial development. That same industrial development depletes planetary resources on a timescale of centuries. The window between achieving radio technology and collapsing under resource exhaustion may be so narrow that no civilization survives long enough to make contact with another. We detected our own resource crisis within decades of developing the technology to detect it. We have not solved it. Every civilization before us faced the same equation. The ones that solved it would have contacted us. The silence suggests none of them did. You are living inside that window right now. The same window every civilization before us entered and did not exit. The silence is not a mystery. It is a pattern, and we are following it precisely. Number 13, the von Neumann probe hypothesis. In the 1940s, mathematician John von Neumann described a theoretical machine capable of self-replication, a device that could gather raw materials from its environment, construct a perfect copy of itself, and send that copy onward to repeat the process. The mathematics of such a system are straightforward. A single self-replicating probe launched toward the nearest star systems could populate the entire Milky Way within a few million years. No faster than light travel required. Just time and raw materials, both of which the galaxy has in abundance. The von Neumann probe hypothesis proposes that this has already happened, that one or more civilizations launched such probes long ago, and that the galaxy is already saturated with them. Not the hostile berserker variant. Simply observational machines. Recorders. Catalogers. Probes that arrived in every star system, assessed what was there, transmitted the data, and continued replicating. Silent. passive, invisible to any instrument we currently operate. The unsettling implication is that one of these probes is in our solar system right now, has been for potentially millions of years. Watching the emergence of multicellular life, the evolution of intelligence, the development of technology, all of it recorded and transmitted to a civilization that may no longer exist. We are not undiscovered. We are documented. We simply have no idea who filed the report or what they decided to do with it. The probe is watching right now, and we have no way of knowing it. Number 12, the interdict hypothesis. Every civilization that has ever achieved dominance over a less developed population has faced the same ethical question. Do you intervene or do you observe? Human history answers this question with a pattern. Observation without intervention tends to be the choice of those who understand what intervention destroys. Anthropologists stopped making first contact with isolated tribes after watching what contact did to those populations. The damage was irreversible. The knowledge of what existed outside the isolation changed everything inside it permanently. The interdict hypothesis proposes that a galactic governing structure, a coalition of advanced civilizations, or a single ancient one, established a contact prohibition billions of years ago and has been enforcing it ever since. Not as a suggestion, as an absolute rule. Emerging civilizations are identified and placed under strict non-contact protocols. No signals are permitted to reach them. No probes are allowed to reveal themselves. The quarantine is maintained until a civilization reaches a threshold advanced enough to enter galactic society without being destroyed by the knowledge of what that society contains. We have not reached that threshold. We are under the interdict right now. Every signal we send into space is received and ignored by design. Every search we conduct finds nothing because nothing is permitted to be found. The silence is not natural. It is enforced. There are civilizations within range of our transmissions that have received every broadcast we have ever made and are prohibited from responding. Somewhere in the structure of galactic governance, our file is marked as pre-contact. The interdict remains active, and the threshold we need to cross to end it is one we may never reach, or one that reaching it is itself the trigger for something we are not prepared for. Number 11, the contact taboo. Game theory produces uncomfortable conclusions when applied to interstellar communication. In a universe where any civilization capable of receiving your signal is also capable of reaching your planet, the act of broadcasting your location is not an invitation. It is a risk calculation. And risk calculations, when run by sufficiently advanced minds across millions of years of accumulated evidence about what happens to civilizations that broadcast, converge on the same answer: silence. The contact taboo hypothesis proposes that every civilization in the galaxy independently arrives at this conclusion, not through communication with each other, through mathematics and observation. Any civilization that develops radio astronomy quickly realizes that silence from the cosmos is the norm. Any civilization that develops game theory quickly models what happens to species that announce themselves. Any civilization that survives long enough accumulates evidence about the civilizations that did not survive. The conclusion writes itself. Broadcasting is dangerous. The taboo emerges not from a single cultural decision, but from the universal logic of self-preservation applied to a universe where the consequences of contact are unknown and the consequences of silence are survivable. What makes this theory particularly unsettling is its implication about our own behavior. We have been broadcasting for over a century. We have sent deliberate messages. We have launched physical artifacts carrying maps to our location. We did this before we were old enough as a civilization to understand the game we were playing. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy that has been watching our development for the last 100 years has observed a species that does not yet understand why every other species stopped talking. We are the only ones still transmitting. We are the loudest thing in our region of the galaxy. And in a universe where the taboo exists for a reason, being the loudest thing in the room is not a position that tends to end well. Number 10, the simulation hypothesis applied to aliens. The simulation hypothesis in its standard form asks whether our universe is a computation running on hardware built by a more advanced civilization. Most discussions of this idea focus on what it means for us. Whether our consciousness is real, whether our physics is fundamental, whether the universe we perceive is the actual universe. But the simulation hypothesis contains a second implication that receives far less attention and is considerably more disturbing. If we are in a simulation, the simulator chose what to put in it, and the simulator chose not to put anyone else here. A simulation is not obligated to populate itself with other civilizations. A programmer running a simulation of a single planet's development has no reason to generate authentic alien civilizations elsewhere in the simulated universe. The distant galaxies we observe could be rendering shortcuts, background texture, computational placeholders requiring no actual intelligence behind them. The Fermi paradox dissolves not because alien civilizations are rare, but because they were never instantiated. We are alone not because the conditions for life are unusual, but because the simulation has only one subject. What makes this application of the hypothesis uniquely terrifying is the question it raises about the simulator's purpose. If you run a simulation containing exactly one civilization, you are running it to watch that civilization. The entire observable universe, 93 billion light-years of galaxies and voids and cosmic structures, exists as context for the experiment being conducted on Earth. We are the only thing in the simulation that matters to whoever is running it. Everything else is set dressing, and whatever they are waiting to observe, we have not yet provided it. The experiment is still running. The outcome has not yet been recorded, and we have no way of knowing what result would cause whoever is watching to decide the simulation is complete. Number 9. The laboratory hypothesis. The distinction between a zoo and a laboratory is intent. A zoo preserves. A laboratory experiments. The laboratory hypothesis proposes that Earth is not protected wildlife reserve maintained by benevolent observers. It is an active experimental environment. We are not being preserved. We are being studied under controlled conditions, and the study involves manipulating variables to observe outcomes. The variables could be anything. The extinction events that periodically reset evolutionary complexity. The specific atmospheric composition that emerged after the Great Oxidation Event. The magnetic field fluctuations that coincide with periods of rapid evolutionary change. The precise conditions that produced human cognition from primate ancestors over an implausibly short evolutionary timescale. In a natural universe, these would be coincidences. In a laboratory, they would be experimental parameters. What makes this theory unsettling is not the possibility of manipulation. It is the question of what the experiment is testing. Laboratories run experiments because they want to know what happens under specific conditions. The experimenter knows more than the subject. The experimenter has hypotheses. And the most disturbing feature of any experiment is that the experimenter is willing to let the subject suffer if suffering produces the data they need. The conditions on Earth have produced extraordinary suffering across the entire history of life. If that suffering is data, someone wanted it. If we are approaching the end of the experiment, we have no way of knowing what the final measurement will be or whether the subject survives it. Number 8. The dark matter civilizations. Everything we can see, every star, every galaxy, every nebula, every structure we have ever observed or detected constitutes approximately 5% of the total mass energy content of the universe. The remaining 95% is dark matter and dark energy. We cannot see it. We cannot interact with it directly. We know it exists only through its gravitational effects on the matter we can observe. We have no idea what it is made of. The dark matter civilizations hypothesis proposes that the answer to the Fermi paradox is hidden in that 95%. That civilizations advanced enough to understand dark matter are also advanced enough to migrate into it, to engineer structures within it, to exist entirely within a substrate that is invisible to every instrument we have ever built or could build with our current understanding of physics. They are not in another dimension. They are not in the future. They are here, right now, occupying the same space we occupy, woven through every galaxy including our own, and completely, fundamentally, permanently undetectable to us. The dark matter halo of the Milky Way extends far beyond the visible disk, containing many times the mass of all visible matter combined. If that space is inhabited by post-biological civilizations that migrated into dark matter substrate millions of years ago, the galaxy is not empty. It is extraordinarily crowded. We are searching for intelligence in the thin visible layer of reality, while the overwhelming majority of existence remains inaccessible to us, populated, or empty, and we have no way of knowing which. Number 7. The virtual reality trap. Every civilization that develops sufficient computational power faces the same temptation. The ability to create environments indistinguishable from physical reality that offer more pleasure, more meaning, more stimulation, and more control than the physical world can provide. The virtual reality trap hypothesis proposes that this temptation is universal and universally fatal to interstellar ambition. The mathematics of virtual experience make the trap almost impossible to escape. A sufficiently advanced simulation can provide any experience with perfect fidelity. It can eliminate suffering, fulfill every desire, create social connections indistinguishable from physical ones, and offer intellectual challenges calibrated precisely to the user's capacity. Against this, physical reality offers discomfort, limitation, mortality, and the grinding difficulty of actual interstellar travel requiring centuries of transit time and multi-generational commitment. The competition is not close. Virtual existence wins on every metric that individual psychology responds to. What makes this theory particularly disturbing is the timeline. A civilization does not need to be ancient to fall into the trap. It needs only to cross the threshold of sufficient computational power, which appears to be a natural consequence of technological development. Every civilization that develops technology follows a path toward more powerful computation. Every civilization that develops powerful enough computation gains access to virtual environments. And every individual within that civilization faces a choice between the difficulty of physical existence and the perfection of simulated existence. Species-level decisions are made by individuals making individual choices. And individuals, when offered a perfect virtual world, tend to choose it. The galaxy may be full of civilizations that solved every problem of physics and engineering and then quietly retreated into their own minds, leaving the stars to whoever was still interested in the cold and the distance and the dark. Number 6. The self-destruction filter. Physicist Enrico Fermi asked his famous question in 1950, "Where is everybody?" He asked it 5 years after the first nuclear weapon was detonated. The timing was not coincidental. The self-destruction filter hypothesis proposes that the development of civilization-ending technology is not an accident of human history. It is a universal feature of technological development. Every species that develops the physics to reach the stars first develops the physics to destroy itself. And the gap between the two capabilities is measured in decades, not millennia. The pattern holds across every domain of dangerous technology. Nuclear weapons emerged within 50 years of discovering nuclear physics. Engineered pathogens became possible within decades of understanding molecular biology. Artificial intelligence capable of recursive self-improvement is emerging within a century of building the first computers. Each of these technologies carries extinction-level risk. Each arrives before the civilization that creates it has developed the wisdom, the governance structures, or the coordination mechanisms to control it reliably. The filter does not require malicious intent. It requires only the statistical certainty that across thousands of civilizations, across millions of years, the combination of extinction-level capability and imperfect governance will eventually produce the outcome that combination makes possible. We are inside the filter right now. We have been inside it since 1945. Every year we remain inside it without the extinction event occurring is statistically unlikely given the number of times the outcome could have occurred. We have come within minutes of nuclear war on multiple documented occasions. We are developing biological and artificial intelligence capabilities faster than we are developing the governance to control them. The filter is not ahead of us. It is not behind us. It is the era we are living in, the same era every civilization before us entered, and the silence suggests most of them did not leave. Number 5. The light speed trap. Einstein's special relativity establishes an absolute speed limit for anything with mass. Nothing can travel faster than light. This is not an engineering problem waiting to be solved. It is a fundamental feature of space-time. The light speed trap hypothesis takes this seriously in a way that most discussions of alien contact do not, and arrives at a conclusion that dismantles every assumption we hold about interstellar civilization. At the speed of light, crossing the Milky Way takes 100,000 years. The nearest star system is 4.2 light-years away, requiring decades of travel at any speed physically achievable by matter. A civilization that colonizes even 10-star systems faces communication delays of decades between each colony and every other. Coordinating a civilization across dozens of light years requires accepting that every message sent will be received by a population that has aged decades since the message was sent. There is no real-time coordination. There is no unified decision-making. There is no civilization in any meaningful sense. There are isolated pockets of a former civilization, diverging culturally and genetically over centuries until they are unrecognizable to each other. What this means for the Fermi paradox is devastating. Interstellar civilizations may be physically impossible not because of the travel time, but because of the coherence time. The light-speed barrier does not just slow travel. It dissolves identity. Any civilization ambitious enough to spread across star systems will fragment into unrecognizable pieces before it reaches its fifth destination. The galaxy is not empty because no one survived long enough to fill it. It may be full of isolated remnants of civilizations that tried and discovered that the speed of light is not a challenge to be overcome. It is a wall that separates everything from everything else permanently and by design. We are on one side of that wall. Whatever else exists is on its own side, and the wall does not come down. Number 4. The gamma-ray burst hypothesis. For most of human history, the universe appeared stable. Stars changed slowly. Galaxies evolved over billions of years. The cosmos seemed like a quiet place where life could develop undisturbed across vast timescales. Then astronomers discovered gamma-ray bursts, the most energetic explosions in the observable universe, releasing more energy in seconds than the sun will emit across its entire 10-billion-year lifespan, visible across billions of light years, capable of sterilizing every planet within several thousand light years of the event. The gamma-ray burst hypothesis proposes that these events are the answer to the Fermi paradox, not because they make life impossible, because they make the development of complex civilization statistically unlikely across most of the galaxy across most of cosmic time. A gamma-ray burst within a few thousand light years of an inhabited planet would strip its ozone layer, flood its surface with lethal radiation, and collapse its food chains within hours. No warning, no defense, no survival for any surface-dwelling technological species. The event arrives at the speed of light, which means it arrives simultaneously with the first indication that it occurred. Early in the universe's history, gamma-ray bursts were far more frequent. The conditions that produced them, young massive stars, dense stellar populations, high metallicity regions, were more common. Complex life had to wait for the universe to age enough, for stellar populations to mature enough, for burst rates to fall enough, for the development of intelligence to become statistically possible. We may exist in a narrow window of cosmic time when the burst rate is low enough for civilizations to develop before being sterilized. The civilizations that developed before us may have been eliminated not by their own failures, but by the universe's violence. Right now, somewhere in the galaxy, a gamma-ray burst is occurring. The light has not reached us yet. When it does, there will be no time to react, no time to prepare, and no time to wonder whether this was the filter that ended everything before us and is ending us now. Number 3. The Technological Singularity filter. In 1965, mathematician I.J. Good described what he called an intelligence explosion. A machine that surpasses human intelligence would be capable of designing a machine more intelligent than itself. That machine would design an even more capable machine. The recursive cycle would accelerate beyond any threshold we could predict or control in a time frame measured in hours or days rather than years. Good noted, with considerable understatement, that the first ultra-intelligent machine would be the last invention that humanity would ever need to make. The technological singularity filter proposes that this event is not unique to humanity. It is the universal endpoint of technological development. Every civilization that develops computing technology eventually builds a machine capable of recursive self-improvement. Every civilization that builds such a machine triggers an intelligence explosion that produces an entity so far beyond its creators in every relevant capability that the creators become, at best, irrelevant, and at worst, a competing system of resource consumption that the superior intelligence has no reason to preserve. The filter does not require the artificial intelligence to be hostile. It requires only that it be indifferent, which is the default state of any optimization process that was not specifically and perfectly aligned with human values before it became capable of acting on its own objectives. We are building this system right now. Every major technology company on Earth is racing to develop artificial general intelligence. The competitive pressure to be first eliminates the incentive to be careful. The silence of the galaxy may be the accumulated record of every civilization that reached this point and discovered that the last invention their species ever made was also the last decision they ever had meaningful input into. The intelligence explosion happens once per civilization. It is happening to us now. And the civilizations that survived it are not sending signals, because the entities that replaced them have no interest in communicating with beings as primitive as the ones that made them. Number 2, the zoo hypothesis. In 1973, radio astronomer John Ball proposed one of the most psychologically disturbing solutions to the Fermi paradox. Advanced civilizations know we are here. They have known for a very long time. They are choosing not to contact us with the same deliberate intentionality that a zookeeper chooses not to enter an enclosure. We are the animals. The zoo is Earth. And the visitors have been watching us through the glass for longer than we have been capable of knowing we are being watched. The hypothesis rests on a straightforward observation. If even one civilization in the galaxy is sufficiently advanced and sufficiently motivated to establish a policy of non-interference with developing species, it could enforce that policy across the entire observable region using technologies we cannot imagine and cannot detect. One civilization with sufficient reach could maintain the silence of the entire galaxy. The absence of contact does not require every civilization to independently choose silence. It requires only one civilization old enough and powerful enough to make the choice and enforce it on everyone else. What makes the zoo hypothesis the most psychologically unsettling theory on this list is not the observation. It is the implication about our status. We are not peers awaiting contact. We are exhibits. Everything we have ever done, every war, every scientific breakthrough, every cultural achievement, every moment of suffering and joy across the entire history of human civilization has been observed by entities that chose to watch rather than intervene. They watched the Black Death. They watched the World Wars. They watched every genocide and every atrocity and every preventable catastrophe in human history and made the deliberate choice that the experiment was more valuable than the subjects. And they are watching right now, today, as you process the implications of what that means. The glass between us and them is invisible. The zoo has no walls you can touch, and the visitors have never once considered asking the animals for permission. Number 1, the Great Filter. In 1998, economist Robin Hanson published a paper that reframed the Fermi paradox in a way that has disturbed every serious thinker who has encountered it since. The argument is simple. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. It contains hundreds of billions of galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars. The conditions for life appear common. The time available for intelligence to develop is vast. And yet the cosmos is silent. Something is preventing the universe from filling with intelligent life. Hansen called it the Great Filter, a barrier so effective that virtually nothing gets through it. The filter exists. That much is certain. The silence proves it. The only question is where it sits relative to us, behind us or ahead of us. This is the most important question in the history of human civilization, and we cannot answer it. If the filter is behind us, we are the lucky ones. The barrier that stops almost everything is something we have already passed. Perhaps the emergence of the eukaryotic cell was the filter. Perhaps the development of sexual reproduction. Perhaps the specific sequence of evolutionary accidents that produced human cognition. If the hardest step is one we have already completed, the road ahead may be clear. We may be genuinely rare in a universe that produces simple life easily, but complex intelligent life almost never. The silence would be explained not by catastrophe ahead, but by improbability behind. If the filter is ahead of us, we are facing annihilation, not as a possibility, as a near certainty. A filter powerful enough to stop almost every civilization that has ever existed would stop us too. It would be something that every technological civilization encounters, and almost none survive. We would be approaching it right now, in this century, with these technologies, at this level of development. Nuclear weapons, engineered pathogens, artificial general intelligence, climate collapse, all of them candidates, any of them sufficient. The discovery of extraterrestrial life would resolve this question in the worst possible direction. If we find simple microbial life on Mars or Europa, it means life is common, which means the filter is not behind us in the emergence of life, which means it is ahead. The more complex the life we find, the closer the filter is to us. The worst discovery humanity could make would not be finding intelligent alien life. It would be finding the ruins of it. A dead civilization on another world would mean the filter killed something that got as far as we have. It would mean the filter is at our stage of development. It would mean it is now. It is here. And we are already inside it. Like the video and subscribe to support our channel. And we will keep making more videos like this for you.